experience a dirty hippie that's not a person.
You did. This is the dirty. Okay. We got the dirty hippie on deck. Us. Shout out to the brew.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Then I got me a strawberry lemonade lotus because essentials.
Yeah. This where we at with it right now. So. We are now officially going. It's happening. It's on. Boom, bang. Ah! All right. That's just one angle. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, let's start off with the intro. Right. What's an intro? What's happening? Good evening, good day, grand afternoon. Cold afternoon in Indiana right now. It's Valentine's Day, yeah. And we come in here in good solidarity, camaraderie, and just authenticity. And the topic is it's not only subject to, but around dependency, substance use, abuse, or in the entire universe around substance and whatnot. And yeah, let me get a little vibe going. I'm fresher to the streaming atmosphere, so I'm still working on it. But
working on it.
with the special guest, how could I not? Indeed, here in the flesh, but in the beautiful spirit that she is, Hannah Elaine. All right. Yeah. How about we find a quick video?
Okay.
Just let's see what the government says about this. Just an element of the federal recognition of, and I want to go to the CDC. Maybe a quick one too. CDC, okay, 60-second vid.
Overcoming drug addiction is difficult, but I found the path to recovery that worked for me. Treatment helped me come to terms with the issues in my life that caused me to use drugs. And I found better ways to cope. Learning I had a substance use disorder helped me realize I needed to make a change. The road to recovery is different for everyone. There were good days and bad days. But I found strength in seeking help. My friends and family made a huge difference in my recovery. I never gave up. I found my path, and I keep walking it every day. Find the path that works for you. Learn more at cdc.gov/stopoverdose.
I mean, it did. One thing that I did like about it is it did show the 12 steps in there, and that's a big thing for recovery. Each step represents a different landmark.
It's difficult.
I hear you.
Within where you're at with your recovery, you can go at it with your own pace. One thing I've learned, because I had to learn the hard way, was you shouldn't go through it alone. You shouldn't try, and I mean you can, and if you can, more power to you. That's awesome. But me personally, I was the kind of person that I could not. On August 30th of 2020, that's my clean date. I'm in recovery from substance abuse. I used heroin, fentanyl, for a very long time, almost 2.5 years. I knew better, and ironically enough, I used to work in the system. So I was a correctional officer in this town for almost a year and a half. So I knew what it would do. I knew what would happen. I knew the outcomes. I knew better. I know I was raised better. But I just surrounded myself with the wrong people. And my curiosity got the best of me. And, that was when I picked up for the very first time. The thing that gets addicts a lot of the times is that the first time you get high, you chase that specific high. You will never have the same high as your first high, and that's what kills a lot of people that come out of recovery and do have a relapse, you know, they chase that high and they think, oh, well, I can do the same amount as I did when I was clean when I was using 6 years ago. Well, you haven't used in 6 years. So, you know, it's a lot different. Your tolerance is lower. And I, fortunately, I only relapsed once, you know, and then after that, my bender, it lasted the longest. I was arrested on 3 different occasions. My very first one, you know, that one kind of was just I want to say it was basically a warning sign from my higher power.
Hers.
It was, you know, I just got back from living with my mom down south because I left here to get clean.
Mm-hmm.
I lasted 96 days at my mom's house, and I came home, and the 3rd day I was home, I ran into my ex that got me hooked on everything. And I don't want to say she got me hooked because I made my own choices. You know, everything is a choice, but I chose to surround myself with those people, those negative influences, and I chose to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had a feeling when I seen her the first time. I was like, you know, I'm gonna get on my case really quick, and I'm gonna check my name. And so I get on there and I check my name, and sure enough, there's a teeny tiny little orange W next to my name. That means I have a warrant out for my arrest. Very first day, you know, very first time ever being on that side of the law, you know, and at that point in time, like, my whole world changed. Like, I went from not having a record at all, working for the county, to now I'm on the run, basically. I don't want to say I'm on the run because, like, I know it's happening and I'm not running from it, you know, but it was more so I need to get a game plan in place immediately and figure out what I need to do. So, you know, I called my mom. I said, you know, I checked my name on my case. I just, you know, had that intuition in my gut. And I have a warrant. And she's like, okay. Do you know how much it's for? I said, $500. She said, okay. She said, call your grandparents. She said, take a shower. Call your grandparents. Have them get their money together. They'll be buying a few to come and pick you up. We'll go turn you in. I said, okay. As I'm in the shower, police are knocking at my door. I'm in the shower. I ain't answering the door. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry. I'm not refusing, but, like, at this time, I am unavailable. I am unavailable at the moment. I'm lathered, all right?
Right. No, for real.
And so they leave, you know, and then a few hours later, my grandparents show up. You know, they had to pull from their 401k and their retirement. And, like, that's something that, you know, I can never, you know, I can't repay them enough for that. Fortunately, it was only a misdemeanor, but, you know, that right there should have been enough of, Hannah, you came back here, and as soon as you've seen your ex, you get a feeling, you look, you check, you got a warrant. That right there should have been my sign. But it wasn't. You know, I went in, turned myself in, paid my bond, got out. 2 weeks later, I went in, signed my plea for 6 months probation. And at this time, you know, I was living with my mom's best friend. And I was like, for some reason, I thought it was a good idea. And I was like, I'm going to get back with her. You know, I'm going to, because that's just, it's a great idea. So, 3 weeks into me being on probation with the plea that I signed for, I make communication with her. You know, we start hanging out, communicating, everything's great. And then the signs start showing that she's using. And I was like, no, there's no way. You know, and I was like, I'm going to leave it be, like, it's whatever, like, that's not for me. And then one day, I just said, screw it. And I was like, you know what? Just one time. So I got high. That one time turned into, well, when are you going up next? Oh, I'm going up tomorrow. Oh, okay. Well, if you have any left, I'll take some. And then it was, when are we going up next?
I heard you.
And then it was, we are just getting back, and it's, okay, we need to figure out how to get money so that we can go up tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And that progressed and progressed and progressed. And then on October, I want to say it was 20th or maybe, I got arrested. One of my best friends at the time, I lied to her and I told her that I was on Suboxone to treat substance abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I in fact was not. I was on heroin. I was a full-blown heroin addict at this point. My eyes were pinned. I was losing weight. I was nodding out. It was embarrassing. It was distasteful. It was not becoming of me. And she called me in. She called me in, 100%. It was like 10 o'clock at night when I got pulled over at the CVS here in town.
Mm-hmm.
My old coworkers that I worked with at the jail, some of them were on the road already. Like they had became full-blown police officers, not just jail deputies. Or they were ones that would bring offenders in, and I would book these offenders in for them.
Mm-hmm.
They pulled me out, gave me a field sobriety test, and I failed. I didn't even use that day, and I was still under the influence of narcotics. And I can't even say it was Suboxone because it wasn't. It was heroin, and so I went to jail. She actually called my mom after she called me in and said, I just called your daughter in. She's high. She's behind the wheel. I'm concerned. My mom said, okay. Thank you for letting me know. Fortunately, but unfortunately, it was during the pandemic. And so I was released immediately that next morning on a promise to appear. So I didn't get the withdrawals. I didn't get the detox. I didn't get none of that because I still had so much drugs flowing through my system. And so I got out, continued to get high, continued to use, all the way up until 2 days before my court date, which is August 30th of 2020.
Gotcha.
And this whole time I had been communicating with my attorney that I was going to sign a plea and I was going to get out. Like, I was going to sign a plea for a year probation. I was going to get to go out. I was going to get to go up to Indianapolis, and I was going to get high again. Whatever. Living my best life. You know what I mean?
I heard you.
That wasn't the case. The minute I checked in for my court date, I was revoked of my probation immediately. That put a warrant out for my arrest.
Mm-hmm.
And since I was already in the courthouse, they took me into custody that day. And that was the experience that got me clean and kept me clean, and that's where I'm at now. I went through the detox. I went through the withdrawals.
Yeah.
I went through the commissary orders, the fights, the tattoos. We won't talk about those. I did have the full jail experience, and I used to work in that jail.
Right.
So it was traumatizing.
I'm like, yeah, for your mental health.
It was
of that,
100%. Yeah. And it was probably 4 days of begging my mom on the phone. I called my mom twice a day, every single day that I was in there. I was in there for a span of, I believe, 39 days.
Mm-hmm.
I called my mom every single day, twice a day on collect, and it's $17 each call. My mom, she dipped into her 401k to answer my phone calls, and that's something I can never give back to her.
I hear you. I hear you on that.
My mom did video calls with her daughter, and I was in Orange. I was a full-blown inmate in Orange at the same jail that I used to be on payroll.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the back. I was in general population. I was fighting with girls. I was flirting with girls. I was eating the nasty food. But in the same breath, after day 4, it sat in, and I was like, I need to be here. Like, after day 4, the peak of my DTs had stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And DTs alone, like, I didn't even need to be in jail for my DTs to be traumatizing enough for me to be like, there's no way I'm ever doing that again. There's no way. But I was in jail when it happened. You know, I was 100% by myself in on a mat that's not maybe 2 inches thick, on a metal bunk by myself, and so I was on camera. Like, my old coworkers were watching me pee, they were watching me poop, and I was going through withdrawals, so you know that was constant.
Mm-hmm.
I was throwing up. I threw up on my trays. I was eating jail food. You know, I was trying to munch down as much commissary as I could because I just couldn't stand the jail food.
Right.
But it was the chaplain specifically. It was a Friday before a 4-day weekend or a 3-day weekend. You know, me and Jamie got very, very close when I was in there. He's the chaplain for the jail. And nobody knew I was coming, except for brass or administration, until I got there. And when he seen me, it was like the world stood still. He locked on me and he said, "Oh, Hannah." And I said, "Jamie, don't." Jamie, don't. Because at that point, I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I was mad because I was under the impression I was going to be able to get out and get high. Right. So I was mad about that, you know, because I was still stuck. I was still stuck in the. I don't want to. This sounds derogatory, but I was stuck in the dope fiend mindset of, you guys just ruined my plans of getting high.
Right.
You know, but something told him to, you know, come into my cell and pray over me with the door open. And I looked at him and I said, "Jamie, I can't do this." And he said, "You'll be fine. You'll be fine. I promise. You're going to be fine." He said, "I'll check in on you Tuesday morning." And
I cherish those type of ones.
And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he said, "It's a 3-day weekend." He said, "I'm not going to be able to see you Monday." And I said, "Okay, that's fair." I said, "But can you please come and see me Tuesday?" He said, "Yes, absolutely, 100%. He said, "Go ahead and put a special request in." Because in order to get anything in the jail, you had to specially request it off of a piece of paper. But in order to do that, you had to get special requests from the jail officers.
Okay.
So if you're not behaving and you're acting like a fool, they're not going to give you nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you have to earn that privilege. And at that point in time, you know, I was so mad at everybody. I was like, I'm not speaking to nobody. I ain't putting in a request to nobody. You know,
I don't want to talk to none of y'all.
Literally,
I hear
absolutely.
You.
And I was like, y'all ruined my day. You ruined my plans. I was like, I'm mad. And I was like, don't talk to me. You know. And then on the 4th day of me being in jail, my wife at the time got arrested. She got arrested. I knew she was wanted at the time, but I found out that she stole from my grandmother and my grandfather, and they weren't in the best health at the time, and my grandparents were very naive to substance abuse, so it was very easy for me to hide it from them. You know, I'd come over and I'd nod out, but it was because I was working a late shift at B-Dubs, and so I didn't get home until super late, and I was super tired, and, you know, so they just kind of went over their heads, and my wife at the time told them, you know, "Do you want to help pay Hannah's bond? Do you want to put money on her books?" And so my grandparents were like, "Oh, yes, of course. Like, I want to make sure my granddaughter's comfortable." And so Kayla took the money and ran with it. And it was the most angering feeling right then and there. I was like, I want nothing to do with this girl at all. She is dead to me. Legally, I mean, yeah, we're half of a whole idiot at this point. But, like, I want to be done.
No, I hear you, especially when you're in a position where it's like your liberty, your liberty is at the expense of the state, and you can't really, like, step in that essence for yourself. Yep. So it's just like, that's where it's like.
And that's when it gets so frustrating, is because you know all of these steps that you need to take in order to get your life back on track, but it never would have gotten off track if one person wouldn't have derailed it for you. Not just myself, but the person that I thought I was going to be with for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and I can acknowledge that from just like contributing members of your community, like the people that you hold dear, and it's like I hold you to this extent and to this standard, and this I'm this vulnerable, this transparent with you. Don't let this courage, don't misuse it or
absolutely,
you know,
100%.
Don't push me to my highest potential for that.
Absolutely, and you know, I sat in jail for the 39 days, and they, after 2 weeks of being in the medical holding, they came to my room and they said, "Pack your stuff." I said, "I'm getting out." They said, "No, you're going to the back." I said, "I'm going to the back? I used to work here." I said, "I used to work here. Like, do you really, like, I'm a liability at this point. Like, you have an ambulance on standby? Like, you know what I mean? Because, like, some of those.
I don't know what the back is.
General population.
And to
so,
be
and
a CEO in that position.
And so I was like, you know, there's girls in there that, you know, I have booked in, that I have passed out toilet paper to, I have passed out indigent papers to, you know, I've shook their cells down, I've taken things from them, like, these girls, I know for a fact, are not gonna be happy. And, you know, and Jamie came into my room as I'm packing up my stuff, and he said, "Are you ready?" And I turned and I looked at him, and I said, "Yes, but no." And he goes, "Do you want me to go in there with you?" I said, "Do you mind?" He said, "Not at all." He said, he said, "Fortunately for you, we can't put you in general population pod. So we're going to put you in the inmate worker pod / the check-in pod." Well, the check-in pod, they call it, is for people that can't get along with the ones in the other cells. The ones that have certain crimes that are very frowned upon in a correctional environment. And the ones that, you know, get checked out of that pod due to whatever jailhouse reason they think is valid. And so I got put in the inmate worker / check-in pod, you know, so it was people that, you know, they were on a short leash. And I was like, oh, how fitting, you know, someone that used to work here, someone that used to be in brown is now in orange. Yeah. So yeah, short leash, I get that. You know, so I got back there, and I mean, when I tell you I was ready, I felt like I was getting ready to go into battle. Like, I mean, I had, as cliche as it sounds, I mean, I had my pants tucked in my socks, I had my slides on, and I'm not talking like the jailhouse slides they give you, I mean the shower shoes that have grip. Right. My hair was up with the 20-cent hair ties that they give you. You're only allowed 2 at a time. Right. So, you know, I was going back there. I was ready to have to fight to be back there.
Just prepping your mind. That's natural combat mode.
Exactly. And, you know, I got back there, and it was like they seen a 19, almost 20-year-old completely just shattered. They were like, "Oh my God, this girl's in pieces. Like, we need to help her. Like, we're not here to scare her." I got back there. Jamie talked to him. He said, "Her being back here isn't going to be an issue, correct?" And they said, "No, not at all." So we'll take care of her. And when they said that, I was like, I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means. Oh my God.
I was like, right. This could go one of two ways. This is either going to go right or this is going to go left.
All that take care shit. I hear you.
And so I was like, I was like, okay, I'm just not going to take any of my stuff out of my boxes yet in case they're going to put me on the door. Because I expected to be checked out. Because I used to be a turnkey. I used to be a jail deputy at this jail. And, you know, I got back there. I was welcomed with a fresh pair of socks, a set of sweats, a pullover hoodie because it's freaking cold back there, an extra hair tie. I got 3 soups to start me out till commissary rolled through. And I got 2 snack cakes, which I know you don't know, but that's like the gold at the end of the rainbow.
2 snack cakes, 2 Twinkies in it.
Yes.
You good. Susie
And you know, it was very heartwarming, but it was also one of those where I was like, I was just betrayed by someone that was the love of my life. Like, how do I know you guys are fully intending to, like, this is a good thing?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Because one thing that took a long time for me to realize is the very first 90 days of you coming off of drugs, your body is still so sporadic inside. Because your body is trying to just hold on to anything it possibly can that reminds you of substance abuse. You know, so it was, when I got back there, they were doing MedPass, and I was on Zofran, which, if you don't know, that's nausea medicine, because I was still, you know, after 14 days of being up front, being watched, making sure that I'm coming down okay, I still was nauseous. It was certain smells, certain sounds, like nails on a chalkboard would make me gag. They still do.
Make me gag.
It still does.
You
know, and it's just, I mean, your body is grasping for straws. Anything that it can grasp for, like any little bit of rush that it can get, it's gonna go for. And that is why they say the very first 90 days of substance abuse recovery is so detrimental. Well, not detrimental, crucial.
I hear you.
Because your body is trying to fool itself into going back to that. And throughout sitting for that period of time, you know, I couldn't go to class because class was general population and the other pod. So I was stuck in the back the whole time unless it was rec or a library, and I could only go to library with my pod because it was the inmate workers. They had to be on their best behavior. The minute I got back to the pod, not even 4 hours later, our pod was shook down, completely destroyed, because they were under the impression that I was trying to smuggle drugs back there. No one I can't say nobody because some people do, but I know me, whether I'm in my right mind or my left mind, I don't care. I ain't willingly going to jail to smuggle drugs to make a quick buck, you know? And I get it, you know, looking back, when I was there, I was mad. I was pissed. You know, I was like, dang, I just got all settled. I've been here for 3 hours, and y'all done ripped my stuff off the wall that I had to hang with toothpaste, might I add. I had to hang it with toothpaste.
Ingenuity.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know, and, you know, we didn't take it seriously when I worked there, but, you know, they took all my stuff off the walls. They ripped my shit off the walls. And I was like, damn, like, y'all really gonna do me like that? That's shitty.
No,
like,
for sure.
we ain't got nothing in here but flexible pens and paper, and you're just gonna rip my stuff off the wall. I was like, you know, this is rude. The pens are like this big.
Goodness.
No bigger than a straw. You can see through them. Don't work worth a damn. And, you know, and I was completely cool with them shaking the pod down, going through my stuff. It is what it is, you know. They're doing their job. But at that time, I was so mad because I felt like they were out to get me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly, I feel like they did make an example out of me, for sure. But, you know, it worked. It worked. I don't want to say that I got the worst experience because a lot of people, I mean, everybody has different experiences with recovery. But I was very fortunate enough to, you know, get an example set. You know, they did not treat me any different than any other inmate in that jail. The only thing different that they did was they made sure I was alive every day. Like, I mean, they do that with everybody, but with the people that have, you know, been in Brown, you have to be extra careful because those people can be retaliated against. You know what I mean? Like, you have to. And, you know, I mean, I got my commissary like I was supposed to and everything, but I'm telling you what, they watched me hard. They yelled at me one day, and when I say yelled at me, I mean they got on the speakers for the whole pod. Because I was sitting not my bare butt, but like I was sitting on the day room table and not in the stool of the day room table. They got up there. The commissary lady came in. She said, Hannah, you know better. You know better than anybody in here. You know the rules of this jail. I said, ooh.
Ooh, easy.
Yes, ma'am. I said, what
Shit.
rule did I break? And she said,
Alright.
you're sitting your bare behind on this table. She said, you guys eat on this table. She said, you may not got sense and that's why you're in here, but you need to take your ass off my table.
Alright.
Yes, ma'am. I slid my booty right off that table and I sat down on that stool.
Right on.
But you know, I kept in contact with my mom. I actually reconnected with the girl that called me in. You know, I did a video visit with her just as a, like, you know, I'm sorry you had to do that. Like, I apologize for her having to call me in because I know that wasn't easy. You know what I mean? She's named her brother, she named her son after my brother. Like, we were that close. So, you know, I'm sure that was heartbreaking to have to call the police and tell the cops, like, you know, my best friend's high off of heroin behind the wheel. Like, her eyes are pinned. She's not good. And so it was one of those situations where I would not have had such a level head if it wasn't for my mom. You know, if there's anything that I'm grateful for in this world, it's my mom.
Come on. Shout out to all the moms.
Yes,
Shout out to all the
yes.
moms for sure.
You know, she didn't have to pay for my collect calls. She didn't have to put money on my books. She didn't have to send me thinking of you cards once a week. Like, she didn't have to do that. But she did. Because she knew that this was the turning point for me.
That faith.
Yes,
that's what I'm
100%.
hearing. Having people in your
100%.
corner that really has faith in your potential.
100%.
Like, cause at that moment, you were in a position where it's just like, you're here now. Like, you're in a position where you're incarcerated for that matter.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, we need people around, somebody in our community that's like, okay, wherever the fuck you at in your journey, I got faith in the highest version of yourself, and I'm going to contribute.
Yep.
Whether it's via money, via affirmation, phone call, but just taking the time to invest into that.
100%.
I value that for sure.
And, you know, the charge I actually picked up outside of CVS, originally I was hit with 2 charges. It was OWI under a controlled substance and OWI endangerment because I had somebody in my vehicle with me. That person that was in my vehicle was a known drug dealer, very well-known drug dealer, very not good person. You know, and so when I got out, I actually signed a plea for OWI endangerment, which is the highest charge out of those 2. So, you know, when I got out, I knew I was going to be getting out to a suspended license. And I was like, well, I need an army. You know, and just like that, you know, video showed, you know, you need those people to help get you over that. And if I wouldn't have had, you know, my grandma, who, you know, she flat out told me on the phone, because I asked her, I said, Grandma, do you want to do a video visit with me? She said, no. I said, what? She said, no. She said, I'll talk to you. She said, and I won't pay for calls. She said, you're going to pay for a phone card, and you're going to buy my time. She said, you're going to pay the $12 for a 20-minute phone call. If you want to talk to me and you want to make things right, you will pay for it.
Heard you.
And I was like, okay, that's fair. So what did I do? I bought 4 or 5 different phone cards. And, you know, I talked to my grandma. You know,
Shout out to the grannies.
Yes,
shout out to the grandmas.
Yes, we love grandmas.
Indeed.
You know, and I was very transparent with them. You know, when I got out, I was expecting a stern talking to. You know, I was expecting the D word to be thrown around, disappointment. You know, I was expecting that, and to me, the disappointment word, you know, you can sit here and you can call me dumb, you can call me stupid, tell me I know better, you can do all of that, but the minute you throw the disappointment word in my face, that stabs me in the heart and you twist that knife. Yeah. And, you know, coming from somebody that, you know, watched me grow up, knew I grew up better than that. But I took advantage, you know what I mean? Like, my grandma worked in a nursing home in the care plan office. You know what I mean? The closest she got to ever seeing drug use was hospice care. Like, you know what I mean? When someone was needing to feel comfortable because they were in so much pain because they were at the last part of their life.
Yeah.
Like, that was the closest my grandma ever got to seeing substances being used. And she never seen it in a negative manner.
Yeah.
So, my grandma had no idea because the only time she ever seen drug distribution was when it was done legally, properly, and at the discretion of the medical provider. And so it was, when I got out, I accepted full responsibility. My grandma took me everywhere. Took me literally everywhere. When I got out of jail, I want to say like 41 or 42 days clean. I had gained almost 15 pounds from being in jail.
Okay.
When I got weighed in to go to the back, after 2 weeks, I was 92 pounds.
Oh, easy.
I right now am sitting at 106.
Go ahead.
But I'm healthy. You know what I mean? So when I was
You
using,
look
thank
good.
you.
Oh, you look
So
good.
when I was using, I was under 90 pounds, and I'm 5 foot tall. So I just looked like a giant string bean in the wind. And so when I got out of jail, it was part of my probation that I had to hit NA meetings. And it was mandatory. I had to hit at least 2 a week. And I was like, okay, no issues. Like, I did the NA thing before, and it wasn't there for me. But I got a sponsor. That sponsor really cracked down on me and was like, you need to do X, Y, Z. You need to figure this out. You need to dot this I. You need to cross this T. You need to hold yourself accountable here. You need to get your bills in order. You need to call your insurance. Like, your license is suspended for 42 more days. You have 42 days to get your money up so that you can afford to put that insurance on your car, because now you have SR22 insurance for 3 years. SR22 insurance is basically high-risk insurance saying, I fucked up.
Shit. So the rates.
Yes. So the rate was sky high. I was paying probably $60 additional a month. And if you don't pay that insurance, your license is automatically suspended. If you don't pay it, if you do not pay it on time, you have 3 days to pay it, or else your license is suspended until you repay it. And so after that, yeah. And so I was blessed, to say the least, with the opportunity to be put on what they call the MERS grant. MARS grant, Medically Assisted Recovery Scholarship. And basically it's, how do I word this? Basically it's like medically assisted recovery.
Okay.
So I tried the Suboxone and it didn't work for me. But everyone has different experiences with that. It works for some, it doesn't work for some. It did not work for me. Because in my body, it was still considered a chemically addictive substance. Okay. So I could still feel my body wanting to grasp for those straws, and I just wasn't comfortable with that. So I reached out to my sponsor, and I was like, is there any other options? I'm not saying that I want to be on this for the rest of my life, because there's some people that can be on, Suboxone, methadone, Subutex. They can be on that for 30 plus years and just thrive off of it. But for me, I can't do that. I apparently have a very prominent addictive gene in my family, and I did not realize how strong that gene was until I kickstarted it, and boy, did that engine go. And so they were like, well, we have this one, we don't give it out very often, do you want to try it? And I was like, okay, well, what is it?
Right.
And they're like, it's the Vivitrol shot. I said, okay, well, I need more? What is it?
What would that be?
And they were like, well, it's a shot that you get in your derriere once every 28 days, and it's an opiate antagonist. Okay. So what it does is it attaches to those craving receptors in your brain, and basically it tricks your brain into thinking that it's getting that. But it's not. It's basically masking it. So your brain will stay steady. You're not sitting here having flashbacks of doing lines of drugs as you're driving down the interstate. You know, you don't think about that. You know, you're thinking about, oh, I got work in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, you're thinking of productivity instead of drug abuse. And they were like, you know, but the issue is that, you know, you have to drive to Lebanon every 28 days to get it. I said, well, my license is suspended, so I don't know what you want me to do. And they were like, talk to your family, you know, we'll give you time to think on it. And I was like, okay. So I, you know, had to call Grandma, and I was like, Grandma, you know, is there any way you could come pick me up and I could come have a conversation at your house? And she was like, what's up? Well, I was surprised they even let me back into their home that early. Just because, you know, you couldn't trust me. Like, I didn't even trust myself with myself. And unfortunately, you know, but she did. You know, she gambled, and it was worth it.
Take risk and pray.
Yes. And, you know, I laid it all out for him. I said, you know, I got accepted into this substance abuse program where I basically just got a scholarship for a medically assisted grant for my cravings, like, and she was like, okay, well, can you explain it more to me? Like, I don't want to take you so that you can just be pumped full of drugs once a month, because you know, my grandma was very skeptical at that point.
Maybe.
She was like, I don't know. So, you know, she drugged me to the computer and she said, look it up. You know, so we looked it up, we did more research on it, and she was like, okay. She said, I'll take you. You know, so I showed up to Witham Health, and they looked at me and they said, here's the script. You need to go down the street, hang a left, go to that pharmacy, tell them that you're starting the MERS grant. I said, okay. So I walk in there, hand them that. They look at me. You don't look like your typical drug addict. I said, what's a drug addict look like?
Right.
I said, just because I don't have pits in my face and no teeth, or, you know what I mean, like nappy hair, and I smell like the bottom of a bridge, like, I was a drug addict. You know, and it was right then and there that I had ever been called a drug addict. And I was like, ooh,
shit,
ow. And, you know, at that point, I was like, you know what, I just need to accept this. You know, it's public knowledge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My mugshots are posted.
No cap.
My mugshots are posted. I've got a case number. I have a jacket number now. I have 2 case numbers now.
Real shit. I heard
You know, like, I have officially been incarcerated in this county jail, and I have officially been booked into this jail 3 times now, and it took 3 times for me to get it. And they hand me a box, and they're like, here. I said, this is my shot? And they're like, no, it's a powder. They were like, it's an emulsion. I said, I don't know what that is. I didn't take no science classes. I was like, clearly I didn't go to college. Look at me.
Look, I don't want to talk nothing about chemistry.
Yeah.
Damn game about chemistry right now.
And, you know, so I walked up to the doctor's office, and I said, you know, I'm here for my shot. She looks at me and she said, name? She goes, name? I said, oh, all right. You know, gave her my first and my last name. She said, have a seat. We'll be with you shortly. I said, okay. And she goes, but you need to give me that. And I was like, what? And she goes, people will destroy it while they're waiting because they don't want it. I said, why would someone want to throw away that opportunity, you know?
Right.
And so I handed it over, and I sat there for, I want to say it was like 5 minutes. And this itty-bitty little nurse comes out, opens the door. She said, Hannah, we're ready for you. I was like, oh my gosh, she's so little. I was like, oh my gosh, she's so cute. And, you know, so she goes, stand up on the scale, stand up on the thing. And I was like, all right, get up there, takes my height, take my weight. At this point, I was 97 pounds. You know, that's substantial weight gain compared to where I was.
Gotcha.
And she was like, are you ready? And I just kind of looked at her. She goes, all right, drop your pants. I said, whoa, hold on now. Hold on now. And she was like, this is gonna hurt, and I'm not gonna lie to you. And I said, well, what do you mean? Like, She said, well, she said, for starters, the liquid is cold. She said, so you know how typically when you mix powder with a warm liquid, it dissolves? Well, they didn't have any warm liquid ready. And so I got cold. And she was like, this is going to hurt. It's going to ball up. She said, but it's not going to ball up in this syringe before I inject it into your muscle. She said, it's gonna ball up in your muscle.
Oh, easy.
She said, are you sure that you're ready for this? She said, this is very taxing. This is going to hurt. And I just kind of looked at her and I was like, are you trying to talk me out of this? And she goes, no. She said, I know you're going to do it. She said, I can see that you want this. She said, but I'm just giving you a warning that your butt's going to be a little uncomfortable for a few days. And I was like, okay, like I'm ready. Boy, I'm telling you what. She pulled out that needle for the injection. That sucker was huge. It was long. And she was like, she goes, it's going to leave a small little hole. And I was like, what do you mean?
Oh, no.
And she goes, well, it's just because it's such a big needle.
You finna have 2 Buddha.
And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. Just go. And she was like, all right, ready? 1, 2. And I was like, oh my God, what happened to 3? What happened to 3? You know, and then by the time I got done, I turned around and I looked because, you know, I could already feel like the pressure in my right butt cheek. I could already feel it, you know, I don't want to say stretching because that makes it sound dirty, but like I could feel the pressure build up because it had balled up so fast. You know, I had literally a full-blown baseball underneath my freaking booty cheek, like in my muscle. And it hurt. It hurt so bad. And she was like, you're going to need to ice that. You're going to need to put heat on it. She was like, you're going to need to walk it out. She was like, we suggest going up and down these steps a few times. And I was like, great. And, you know, with the very first initial dose, they were like, you know, you're not really going to see any resemblance. And I was like, any noticeable changes. And I was like, okay, like, that's fair. You know, so I started going to my meetings. I was hitting them hard. I was going every single day.
Yeah.
I was doing what they call a 90 for 90. So I was hitting 90 meetings in 90 days.
Yeah.
You know, I was a part of, I held a service position in this group. So kind of the way to describe it is like a GSR is kind of like the student council representative of that group. Like you decide what you want your home group to be. So whichever, you know, meeting group you're most comfortable in. You know, and you make that your home group. So I picked, you know, my Wednesday nights and Friday night meetings, and, you know, I was their little GSR representative. I would go to what they call region, or area. I would go to area, and they would, you know, come up with events and things that were sobriety friendly, recovery friendly. So, like, New Year's, they did, like, a New Year's banquet. It was, you know, you'd have a chili cook-off, and then... You know, 9 times out of 10 with substance abuse, you also have jail. And so, like, in order to raise money for these funds, you know, people would put $1 in and they'd be like, okay, go send that person to jail. And, like, someone would have to pay $1 to get you back out. Gotcha. You know, so, like, every time someone went in, that was technically $2 to the foundation. You know, and so it was very, in the process of being in recovery, you know, you learned how to make light of the darkest times.
Yeah.
You know, so some people call it dark humor, which is a lot of what recovery is once you have built that strong enough foundation where you're like, okay, I've learned not to do this and this and this. Man, I remember when I did this one thing, damn, that was dumb. Like, shoulda, coulda, woulda. Yeah. And, you know, so you just kind of grow from that.
What I want to say, like, just, what I'm hearing a lot of is that community.
Absolutely, 100%.
Having that to come to bounce off of.
100%. Unity is a big thing in recovery, and you know, I did not realize how alone I was in my addiction until, you know, it was my very first time ever feeling the effects of a withdrawal, and I had sent my mom a message, and my exact words were, you know, Mom, I'm dope sick. And she said, what do you mean? And I literally typed out the words, Mama, I'm a drug addict. And I sent it. And she said, I know you are. I love you. We'll get through it. you know, and it really stuck with me because I never thought that I would have to say those words, you know, because I know I was raised better. You know, I lost my brother when I was 13, you know, and he was basically my, like, foundational father figure. My dad was you know, every family has their issues, you know, but, like, my dad wasn't as present as he could have been. I wouldn't let him be as present, but that was also because I was hurt by his choices. You know, so my brother was really, like, my dad. And so when I lost him at 13, you know, I didn't really have that full parental guidance because I don't think, you know, I mean, everyone has a destiny, everyone has a plan. You know, but I can wholeheartedly sit here and say, you know, that if my brother was still alive today, I really don't think that I'd ever, you know, experience recovery because, you know, my brother would have yanked a knot in my tail. You know, he wouldn't have let me be around those people. But, you know, it happened. It did. And I learned from it. You know, I have overdosed. I have been Narcaned. It's one of the scariest things ever. You know, you're sitting there excited, you're going to get high, and the next thing you know, you're swinging on a paramedic. Like, and you're swinging on the paramedic because you're scared. You don't know what's going on. Your heart just got restarted. And you're mad that they just ruined your high with Narcan. You know what I mean? Like,
it's complex.
It is. It really is. And, you know, the 12-step program, you know, there's, in the 12-step program, they talk to, you know, about, like, you have to take, like, a moral inventory. The moral inventory for me, personally, you know, there's, if you look, like, it's like step 1, for an example, it's, you know, admitting that you are powerless over your addiction. You know, meaning that, like, you're stuck. You know, you have no choice. You either get clean or you get dead. Like recovery is literally make or break, life or death, as cliche as it sounds.
I think for me too, like, just having to address the ego. Like, you have to, like,
that is a
damn near
big
gotta
thing.
break the ego, like, because I'm like,
and that's step 4.
I look to it like, fuck, I could do anything. So if it's like, you know, to that element of dependency, like, you know, any substance doesn't have that power over me. But then when I hear that, it's like, gee, you gotta come face. The first step is admitting. That's what.
Yep. First step is admitting that you are a drug addict and that you have absolutely no control anymore. Like, once you think you're in control, that's when you've lost control. You know, and then, like, came to believe that a power greater than yourself could restore you to sanity. That's you realizing, you know, that, like, you can't do this alone.
Yeah.
And unity is a big thing with recovery, like I said. Step 3 is, you know, admitting, you know, that I need to get my shit together. Like, I can't be running from house to house, couch to couch, car to car, trap house to trap house, corner to corner for some people. Like, I can't be doing that no more. And then step 4, you know, it's realizing, you know, like, I've got this thing that I need to fix. I got this that I need to fix. A big thing for a lot of people is their ego, you know, and it's, I don't want to admit, I got this under control. Like, I don't want to admit that I'm a drug addict, but I am, you know what I mean? And, like, that is why when you're in these meetings, you know, I can't tell you how many times I have said the words, my name is Hannah and I'm an addict. You know what I mean? And, like, some people are like, oh my God, like, I'm not going to say that. Like, at this point, you know what I mean? Like, you need to admit it. Like,
if you want to make that progress, if you're sincere about really making that step, then you will go about it and you will go about it from the angles that may even seem absurd to some people.
100%.
You have to really, what I really want to acknowledge is, like, your courage, and I view that shit as bravery, like, to even be able to express that vulnerability amongst anybody to yourself alone.
100%.
I salute that shit. Like, that's what I look up to for sure.
Thank you. And, like, you know, one of the biggest traditions in the group that they stand by, you know, is, you know, spreading the word to the addict that still suffers. And, like, you know, I've lost, in 2022, I lost my cousin to a heroin overdose. you know, him and I, we didn't get high together, but like he got high at the same time I did. You know, he had been in and out, in and out, in and out of rehabs and everything else. But I hid mine. You know what I mean? Like he embraced it, and it still got him. You know, and like that's one thing that like people don't understand is that, you know, you can be an obese drug addict. You can be an addict that has pearly white teeth. You can be an addict with clear skin. You can be an addict that functions a 9-to-5 job. Like I was working at Buffalo Wild Wings, and I would work a 10 to 2 shift, turn around, go up to Indy, get high, come back, and work 5 to 1 a.m. almost every single day. There were some days that I'd be late because I was up in Indy waiting to get my fix. But, you know, I showed up for work and then some. But all my money was striving towards my high. My bills fell short. My phone fell short. My probation bills fell short. My rent. All of it. But I expected my family that you need to have. I expected them to pick up my slack. That's not how that works. Your family's there to help you, not hold you and walk you through life. And that is one thing that, you know, really stuck to me is that you can have people holding your hands in recovery, but they're not going to drag you through it. Like, you need to walk through your recovery by yourself. And, you know, for the longest time, I had the victim complex of, you know, they made an example out of me. They embarrassed me, you know. I can't believe they posted my mugshot on public. They do it to everybody.
Fuck, that
you know what I
pissed
mean?
me off.
They do it to everybody. Like, I have 3 mugshots floating around the internet.
I heard you.
But you know what I mean? At the end of the day, I'm not that person anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've got almost...
And for you to know that, like, because some people might only meet the mugshot version of you.
Absolutely. And
that
some
shit,
people do.
Yeah, that like, I be, and I'm like, you know, to come forward, like, I'm like, fuck, because that if that's the only version of me you meet, you're
not meeting the real me.
Come on.
You know, because when you are under a chemical or a substance or anything, and I mean, it changes your chemistry. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
It literally changes your brain chemistry, 100%. And, you know, that's one thing that in the steps, I believe it's step 6, you know, you talk about your character defects. You talk about what you did. Like, you admit your fuck-ups. Straight up. Whether you robbed somebody, stole their man, slept with their man, scammed somebody, lied to somebody, failed a drug test, cheated a drug test. Like, you admit it all. You put it all out there. Like,
and that's the shit
you
I salute.
have to. You
but
have to.
Not even but. And it's important to have that community like that. It was a trend that I listen but I don't judge or whatever it's
Yeah,
called.
we listen and we don't judge.
Yeah, like
100%.
That's real life very important to and for me I recently got into counseling. And just to experience that vibe, I'm fighting against the stereotype. Black people don't go to counseling. We just laugh about it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like that ability to go to have some person to confide in. And I used to attempt for it to be a girlfriend. Like I used to try to.
And you can't.
You feel me? Put that burden on the like nah. But yeah, I got to a point where it's like I got the resources. Thank God I don't have to come out of my own pocket to pay for it at this moment right now. But yeah, and it's really it's like I get in there and I chop it up for however long, not too long, and when I'm done, it's just like.
You feel weightless because all of that weight is off of you. And you know, they actually say when you're fresh in recovery you shouldn't get into a relationship for the first year. Because, you know, and the way it was explained to me, and this is by, you know, my medical professional that I had at the time, you know, they don't want you to because sex actually triggers the exact same endorphins as a high. You know, so they were like, you know, you don't want to, not necessarily substitute one thing for the other, but you don't want to trick your brain when you're trying to heal.
Gotcha.
You know, it's not them trying to run your life like addicts at the time, or myself anyway, you know, portrayed it as like, oh, they're telling me I can't get laid. They're telling me I can't have a girlfriend. They're telling me I can't have a boyfriend. Like, they're telling me I can't do X, Y, Z. Well, they're not telling you that as a like you absolutely cannot. They're telling you it's in your best interest not to. You know, and I did not listen to that part. You know, I did get in a relationship, but you know that person was also very open to, I don't want to say that lifestyle because I didn't surround myself with that drug lifestyle anymore. I surrounded myself with the recovery lifestyle.
Righteous.
So when I tell you I eat, slept, breathed my recovery, I mean I was going to work, going to my grandma's, I was going to meetings, I was going home. Once a month I was going to the doctor. And then I was going to counseling. I had a peer recovery counselor. I had a sponsor coach. You know, I was seeing a certified addiction therapist, like, to really figure out what kept me going for so long.
Right.
And, you know, it was that I kept going for so long because I was so scared to detox. You know what I mean? Like, I would rather, not now, but I would have rather stayed high and just dug myself a trench than deal with the detox. But once I was through that detox, ever since then, I can wholeheartedly sit here and say I have not once had the desire to ever pick up again. But it was because, you know, I fought that fear of, I stood face to face. You know, I stood face to face with the thing that I feared most. And that's what you have to do with recovery. And they tell you, you know, you have to be selfish in recovery. Because at the end of the day, the only person you got is yourself. Because when you are in active addiction, you're not that person. So you can't even say you have yourself. Because you're fighting yourself every single day. Every single day. You know, so I mean, you're waking up dope sick. And then you're chasing the drugs. You know, but inside you're like, man, I don't want to do this anymore, man. Like, fuck, like, I hate this. I mean, there would be times I'd be waiting tables and my hands would be so weak because I hadn't used that day that I was dropping trays of wings.
Shit.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was nodding out at tables as a server, you know, making the company look bad, making myself look bad. And I wholeheartedly hold myself accountable for that, you know? And, like, fortunately, my job held my position while I was in jail. Because they knew the potential that I had.
Right.
You know, they just knew that I was stuck. Like, I didn't know how to get out. I didn't want to swallow my ego and my pride and say, I need to go to rehab. You know, rehab was not in the cards for me. It was not in the dice for me. I absolutely refused. I was like, ain't no way an old correctional officer is going to fucking rehab. I'm not doing that. No. I'm not doing it. You know, and so it was very humbling, traumatizing, but in the best way. You know, I stayed on that medicated assisted therapy grant. I stayed on that grant for 19 months.
Okay.
And it was the best 19 months. You know, I had formed an amazing recovery family.
Right.
The very first meeting that I went to as a recovering addict, you know, I was met by this girl. I didn't think I'd ever seen this girl before a day in my life. She looks at me, she says, I know you. I said, oh boy.
Shit.
She either knows me because of crackhead days, correctional days, or my family. Which, if it's my family, it's probably not good. You know what I mean? Because, like, my family holds high expectations for myself. And I was like, oh. I was like, how do you know me? Like, and that was, and I was so scared to go into those rooms. Because a lot of those people that were in those rooms, I was passing their mail to them. You know, I was setting up their visits for them on the visit boxes. I was booking them in and out of jail, giving them their showers, you know, patting them down, stripping their cells, taking their razors on razor day, passing their commissary, taking them to rec.
Right.
You know, so it took a lot of pride to walk into those rooms with people that I had taken care of in a jail setting that I was now collecting key tags with. But, you know, as soon as I walked in there, it wasn't, oh my God. It was welcome. And this girl, she walks up to me and she said, you know, I know you. And I said, I don't know you. My plan was to keep my head low, collect my key tags, get my paper signed, learn, absorb the message, and leave.
Right.
But no, this girl, she looks at me and she said, and I'm not gonna say her name out of her respect, but she looked at me and she said, "Do you remember 3 years ago when you strip searched me and I refused to give you the drugs that I had stashed?" And I was like, "I beg your pardon?" Like, I was like, at this point, I was like, is she telling me that she's got stuff stuffed right now? Like, I'm confused.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I'm so overwhelmed with going into these rooms for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm being met with somebody that's clearly very much in recovery and very healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Versus myself, who's, I don't want to say I'm sickly, but, I'm still broken.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even have 60 days under my belt. And, she looks at me and she said, you wrote the report that sent me to prison because I tried to carry drugs in. And I said, wait a minute. Like, are you saying that I strip searched you and I found the drugs and I wrote the report that got you sent to prison? And she said, yes. And sure enough, I then found out her and I had the exact same clean date. Me and her got clean on the exact same day 3 years apart. And not only that, we had the same sponsor.
Mm.
We were in the same recovery family, the same sponsorship family, and I'm so grateful for that family. It was one of the most non-judgmental families, because, when you think of a family reunion, you think of, a pitch-in, saying hi to grandma, loving on each other. Oh my God, I missed you. Oh my God, you're married, blah, blah. No. A recovery family reunion is, you remember that one time that we did drugs in the bathroom and, we had to call 911 for you because your dumbass couldn't handle your drugs. Like, ha, ha, ha.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
100% we listen and we don't judge.
Mm-hmm.
And...
Cause we human too.
Exactly.
And we had that experience. But
100%.
it got to the point where it's like, okay, let's not hold my development to that point in time. Let's address this ability that I can grow. I can be different. I can learn from this experience.
Yes. And, in step 8, it says right there, you make a list of all the persons that you had harmed and be willing to make amends to them all.
Mm.
So my sponsor, she sat me down in Starbucks and she said, you need to make a list of everyone that you fucked over right now. I said, huh? She said, you need to make a list. I was like, okay. So, I sat there and I made a list. I think I had like 6 or 7 people on there. She goes, no, you're going to go home and you're going to really sit and you're going to think about the 2.5 years that you used and abused. And you're going to write down every single person you lied to, you stole from, you scammed. She said, you're going to write it all down. I was like, okay. So, so she was like, we'll meet together again next week. Cool. I wrote down everybody. Didn't put down what I did. But she looked at me and she said, all right, now I need you to tell me everything that you did based on those people. She said, you're going to go to A, you're going to tell me what you did. You're going to go to C, you're going to tell me what you did. You're going to go all the way down, and you're going to tell me what you did. And then after that, you're going to look them up and apologize. You want me to apologize?
Shit.
You want me to apologize?
Ah.
And that all goes back to the ego. You know what I mean? Like,
Cause fuck,
yeah, I was going as far as lying about family emergencies so that people could post me up in hotel rooms so that I could get high closer to Indy, So I had a lot of apologizing to do. So, in the process of doing that, that's step 9, accepting accountability for what you did and what you fucked up.
For sure.
And then, step 10, that's, you taking personal inventory of yourself. So, like, when you feel yourself slipping, you hold yourself accountable. Like, oh, I'm daydreaming about getting high. Shit, I need to quit doing that. Oh, I need to think about my nephew's baseball game. Like, I need to think about that. I need to think about, oh, when's my next shift? Oh, wait, rent's due. Like, those were the kind of things that you had to do. You had to be able to pull yourself in, because addiction is so charming. You know, it's, you live the fast life. You know, it's great. You know, you have absolutely no worries. But when that fast life slows down, it will catch up to you.
Ooh-wee.
It will catch up to you. You know, that rent, it's still going to be there.
That motherfucker's still gonna come.
It's still going to be
Every
there.
month.
The phone, it's
Food.
still going to be there. Food, you didn't worry about food.
Mm.
You didn't worry about food when you was getting high.
No
That didn't
cap.
matter. That didn't matter. You was eating drugs, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know what I mean?
Hey, nah, for real.
So, I mean, you would, if you were fortunate enough
Mm-hmm.
to be able to eat after supplying your high. No, but, you know, you're very fortunate for that. If you're, nothing is good about addiction. Nothing. But, you know, if you were able to get high and eat that day, you were doing damn good. It really is a battle and a testament to your strength, your internal, spiritual, mental, physical. Like, I mean, some of the situations that I put myself in, like, looking back at it now, I have such bad social anxiety. Like, I feel stressed out when I go grocery shopping because there's so many people. But when I was using, I was beat bopping my little ass around the hood.
Heard you.
No problem. You know what I mean? I knew every single person on the crack corner.
Mm-hmm.
Hey. Like,
Right.
I mean, I seen crime. Like, I seen violence. Like, it was insane. You know what I mean? And didn't matter. I didn't care. I didn't care about my body. I didn't care about my mind. I didn't care about none of that. I didn't care about my situation. So, I mean, moral of the story, you know, is if you're ever curious about something, just get on Google. Like, you know what I mean? Just get on Google and be like, what's the effects? You know, I mean, it's easier said than done, and I know that.
I feel like that's what we doing here. Like
100%, you know, and
this is a real resource. Like, this is a scholarly resource right here
100%.
from real life experience. Like, you can get a lot from pulling up diagrams.
Absolutely.
You can get a lot from going to CDC and seeing what they post. But what you can be able to pull from this right here is real life. Like, you're a real human being with a real spirit. Mm-hmm.
You know, a very good movie that I sat down and watched because I was like, you know, is this really
A
like
real depiction.
close depiction of it? Because, you know, I've lived those lives. I've lived those lifestyles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so a really good movie is, you know, it's called 5 Good Days. And it literally is about a woman that, you know, she goes through the Vivitrol shot. She goes through substance abuse. And, you know, and it shows her, you know, the relapse, her fighting to get custody of her kids back. Like, you know, there's so much that goes into addiction, but there's so much more that goes into recovery.
Right.
Like, me personally, I used the Vivitrol shot as a foundation. I didn't use it as a crutch to stand on. I used it to help build that foundation so I could stand on my own 2 feet again.
I heard you.
Because I was so crumbled. I was so broken. Like, addiction absolutely took over. And it can take over in one time. You know what all it takes is one teeny tiny little spark of that chemical to kickstart. And then next thing you know, you're spiraling out of control and you're in a trap house. You know, it doesn't discriminate. You could be a CEO, you could be an NBA player, you could be a correctional officer, you could be a college student, you know, and it doesn't even have to be substances. It can be alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
It can be, you know, you taking one too many of your prescribed Xanax when you're anxious, you know.
Right.
You depending on that, you can't. You have to be able to have that strength.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, very hard to do when you have the media and everything else trying to glamify this absolutely awful experience.
Right.
You know, like, there's one show that I personally could not watch because it was so real.
Mm-hmm.
Euphoria. I could not watch it. I couldn't. It was too real for me. You know, and there's times where you will have that, you know, like you will vibe with something so hard that it hurts your soul. And like, that's something I just couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the show itself phenomenal, the message phenomenal, but I couldn't watch it, you know. I'll be ready eventually, but like just right now it still hits too close to home for me. But, you know, that's because, you know, I may have a strong foundation, but I mean, all it takes is one big rock to crumble and crack that foundation. So you have to constantly be hyper vigilant about what you surround yourself with, your persons, your places, your things, you know. Get hobbies, you know. If you're stuck on house arrest, learn how to fucking paint. Like, you know what I mean? Don't be having DoorDash and drugs over. Like, don't be having people DoorDash drugs over to you. Just fucking pick up a paintbrush.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Start a podcast. Learn how to do art and sketching and things like that.
Fulfill that time frame and with a substitute that's not a substance.
And there's one thing, you know, if there's anything that I learned from my cousin before we lost him due to substance abuse, is, you know, him and I both got clean. And, you know, one of the very last times that I seen him was at my grandmother's funeral. And, you know, we were talking, and I asked him, I said, you know, are you okay? And he was like, yeah, I'm fine. And I looked at him, and we locked in, like, soul to soul. And I said, no. Are you okay? As in, like, are you good? Like, are you sober? Are you clean? Like, are you okay? You know, and he looked at me and he said, no, Hannah, I'm fine. I promise. I said, are you sure? Like, I can be here for you. And he was like, no, really, I'm okay. And I said, you're keeping yourself busy? He said, yeah. Idle hands are a devil's playground. And that right there stuck to my soul and it hasn't left. You know, so like when you get the itch to do something that you know you're not supposed to do,
you'll find something to do.
Find something else to do.
Right.
Not illegal.
Right. Just,
you know, but like if it's past your curfew, but you want to pop from the gas station, just text someone and say, hey, can you bring me a fountain pop? You know what I mean? Like, use your resources and like. Move your feet, you know what I mean? Not out the house if you got a curfew, but like you need to move your feet in the direction that you know you're supposed to be going. Not the way you want to go, the way you know you're supposed to go. Because you know your heart can misconstrue. It really can. You know, again, you know, addiction is cunning and it fogs your mind and it does blind you. You know, so your heart could be telling you to go right, but you know you need to be going left. So you may be going straight for a little bit, but you may veer off just a little bit. But now you're on the right side of the road. That's not good. You know what I mean? You're tiptoeing on that line, that boundary, and that boundary for addiction is life or death. You know, I just lost somebody this week. Somebody that was in the rooms with me, somebody that I took care of in jail. You know, she left behind her 2 sons, 3 sons, and her husband because she thought she could get high one more time. Well, it had fentanyl in it. The one time she tried to get high again because she tiptoed on that line and she didn't keep her foundation strong. And, you know, and God rest her soul, and it really sucks, you know, that all these people are just, they think that's what you need to do. And you can't think like that. You know what I mean? Like, there is always somebody you can talk to. There's always somebody that's willing to listen. The crisis line is open 24/7, 365, 366 days a year. Like, they will listen to you. And at that time, you may not feel like you're worth hearing, but I can assure you that even though you may not feel like you are deserving of that love or that ear, that lending ear, like, you are worth it. You know what I mean? Like, you haven't, every hard thing is a life lesson, and you just won't understand it until you're ready. You know, every obstacle is a lesson. You just have to mentally, spiritually, emotionally, you have to be ready to understand it. And you won't understand it until you feel you're ready. That's just, you know what I mean? Like, and it took a long time for me to be like, well, why did I get so high for so long?
Mm-hmm.
It was because I was so scared to stop, you know, and it took 3 rotations in jail, losing my license, losing the career that I thought I was going to go for. I wanted to be a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But now I don't do that. You know, now safety is my big thing, you know, so like any kind of safety of any type of matter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just addiction is just, it's a wild ride that doesn't stop unless you jump ship. You
Right.
have to jump ship, you know, but in the process of doing that, you need to have people that are willing to help pull you in to shore. And you can't isolate yourself. It's detrimental. You know, and it's your faith will be tested, your ego will be tested, everything about you will be tested. All of the limits that you thought that you couldn't hit, addiction is going to bypass those. And then some. So I mean, and they don't discriminate. Like if you look at me, you wouldn't think that in August I'll have 5 years clean from heroin and fentanyl. You wouldn't think that. You know what I mean?
Indeed.
Like, but that's because I don't make my past or my story who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people seem to think is that, you know, once you're labeled as a drug addict, like you have to embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't. I mean, you have to embrace your past, yes. But in the same breath, you don't need to walk up to someone every single time you start a conversation and say, hey, I'm just letting you know I'm a drug addict. No. You don't need to bring it up. You know what I mean? Like, if someone asks about your past experiences, you can say, you know, like, I am in recovery. You don't need to say, I am a drug addict. You can say, you know, I'm in recovery from substance abuse. You know, everybody's addiction and everybody's recovery is different. Some people make it out alive and some don't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally one of the worst things that I could ever wish on somebody. I mean, I don't wish it on anybody, but like it's one of the worst things that anyone could ever go through. And I've been on both sides of it, you know, multiple different sides of it. I've been on the correctional side of it for the people that, you know, I'm having to deal with these people coming down in jail, and then I was the one coming down in jail. And then, you know, in my family, we dealt with substance abuse on one side of my family, so I was someone that was affected by substance abuse. And then I started affecting the people I loved with my substance abuse. So, like, I have so many different point of views of substance abuse. Like, it's not it doesn't just affect you. And so, and that's why they say addiction is so selfish, is because when you're giving up everything for one thing, but in order to have everything, you have to give up one thing.
Mm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Nah,
You know, so it's like the thing that you surrounded your world around, you have to give that up so you can have everything in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, you know, it's something that's very near and dear to my heart. And like there's so many different resources now. Even since I started my recovery journey, you know, there's so many different grants, there's programs, there's rehabs, there's monitoring, there's daily check-ins, there's inpatient, outpatient, you know, there's all different types of things that you can do. And, you know, it's because fortunately it's not so, I don't want to say spotlighted, because addiction and recovery should always be spotlighted so people are always aware. But, like, it's not something that people are like, crackhead. Like, people don't diss on it so much. And so it's just, the stigma is there, but not in the negative ways that it used to be. So, like, they say that, you know, 2% of meth users will survive and get clean. 1% of IV users get clean. That is, from my experience, what I have heard in the rooms. I don't know the scientifics behind that, but like, it's tedious. It's a lot of work. It's one of the most stressful, hard, but rewarding battles you will ever have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, by doing that, you know, I probably wouldn't be who I am. You know, I'd probably still be closed-minded to addiction. You know what I mean? Because before I had ultimately been affected, it was, oh well, it's their choice. They're doing it. It's their fault. Like, but like, it's easy to get clean. Just stop. You can't just stop. Like, you can, but it's gonna be hell, and that's when people break. And it's just it's a constant. You have to be ready.
Yeah,
You have to
systems.
be ready.
I hear it's very complex to the extent of the biological manifest, all of the chemical work, and the psychological aspects amongst the physical elements. So you have all these different realms that this can hit, and it does hit, and it hits with an extreme.
Yes.
I will say, with all right, now if you really want to go about it, like, what the fuck can I do to get? Where can we start right now? If you have no money, you have a crisis line you can call.
Yep.
Substitute. That's a substitute right there. You got YouTube videos that you can look up. You got public libraries you can go to.
The grants. So the grant that I was on, I actually I wasn't really paying attention to the whole checkout process of, them giving me my medication every month at the pharmacy. And I didn't pay anything.
Okay.
By the grace of God, I did not have to pay anything.
Okay,
It was a sponsored grant. And there was one day that I just so happened to look up at the price thing. And it scanned up as a $3,000 shot.
Ooh.
And I looked at the pharmacist and I said, "Did that just say $3,200?" He said, "Yep." I said, "A shot?" "Yep." And I said, "And I don't know any of that? Not now, not later?" I said, "Nope." And so I mean, that's another big obstacle for some people, is that, financially they can't get what they need. But I mean, again, that's what the crisis line is in place for. Like, if you want to get clean, you call them and you say, like, "I'm sick of doing this. I want to get clean. I have no freaking money." All they gotta do is look up places that have beds that you may not have money, but you have insurance. Or you may not have insurance, but they'll bill you later once you've graduated that program. Like, if you put in the work, you will see the benefits.
Yeah.
You reap what you sow. And that doesn't even have to be in a negative way, you know what I mean? So, like, every reaction has an action. Every action has a reaction. Like, there is always a consequence to whatever next move you make. You may not understand that consequence right then because you're not ready. You have to make it through these different steps in order to understand the obstacles you've already passed through.
Right.
And so that was a big thing for me.
Keep going.
So
keep going.
yes. So, on August 30th of this year, I'm going to be celebrating 5 years clean.
Hey.
But what they say in recovery is no fronts. You can't sit here and say, "I'm going to be 5 years clean in August," because you don't know what life's going to throw at you. And so, for an example, one thing, me and my father, we butted heads for a really long time. He looked me dead in my face one day and he got almost nose to nose with me and he said, "I need you to promise me right now you will never pick up again." And I looked at him and I said, "Dad, I love you to death." I said, "But I can't promise you that." I said, "What I can promise you is I have absolutely no intention, no itch, no urge, no nothing, no inkling, no tingle, no tickle to get high." I said, "I can promise you that right now." I said, "I don't know what life's going to be 20 years from now. I don't know what my life's going to be 20 minutes from now, 20 years from now, 20 days from now. But I can promise you right now," especially in college environments, they talk about addiction, but they don't talk about it enough. Me personally, that's my opinion, because some people, addiction can kickstart in college. Because I mean, you're free from your parents. You've got that freedom of, ooh, I can do this. I can stay out late. I can sleep with whoever I want. I can do whoever I want, whatever I want, try whatever I want. Ooh, I'm gonna try this.
Right. And
then you try it, and next thing you know, you're buying cocaine down the street off of college campus. You know what I mean? Like they teach it, but they tiptoe it.
Yeah, because people don't want to have to come from. They don't want to have to leave that. It's a professionalism, egotistical point of view.
And yes, and I feel like they need to not tiptoe around that. You know what I mean? You need to pull these people in. Like I work in construction. You know, like I'm surrounded by all kinds of people. You know, I got people that got degrees, felonies, certifications, people that are on like probation. Like, I mean, I've got all different a plethora of different type of people. You know, and I'm the first one to call someone. If I think you're on drugs at the site, I'm gonna look at you and be like, "What in the hell are you on?" Like, quit tiptoeing around it. Like, if you see it, hear it, smell it, think about, like, you feel it, anything, say something. You know what I mean? Like, there's too many people that are enabling and not disabling. Like, you can't. You baby the addict, you bury the addict.
Particularly. Is
Hello.
you feel me? But yeah. Like this feel like I was in with my, you know what I mean? Just
It's and that's why people don't talk about it very much, is because it's such an emotional topic. You have to be vulnerable. There's a guy in the rooms that, you know, he had, when I started going into the rooms, he had 31 years clean. You know, they call him an old timer because he's been through it. He's been to prison in Texas. He's been to prison and everywhere. And, you know, his biggest thing is, you know, if you're you need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because the minute you get comfortable, that's when you fuck up. Once you're comfortable, you're going to start figuring out ways to get out of shit.
right.
You know what I mean? So, like, with school, you know, you start figuring out chemistry and shit, and you're skating on through it, you're going to start trying to cut corners to make your load a little bit lighter. You know what I mean? You can't do that.
Press that shit face.
You have to press forward. You have to press on. You have to hit it hard. You know, so that's a big thing. You bury the addict. If you baby the addict, devil's hands are an idle playground.
Come on.
And you have to be
Idle hands.
comfortable being uncomfortable.
Be uncomfortable being uncomfortable.
100%.
If you baby addict, you bury the addict.
100%.
And it's just, I feel like that applies in every element of life.
Absolutely.
For sure.
You can't be babied all your life, you know. You got to stand on your own 2 feet one day, or else when you do stand up, if you don't have that experience, your feet are going to fall out from underneath you.
Legs going to be weak.
You have to have a foundation.
So weak in the knees. Like, no, that's beautiful.
I haven't heard that song in so long. But no, you know, it's just, you know, I'm grateful that you let me come in and, you know, speak on this, because I feel like I feel like it's not talked about enough.
Nah, for sure. I mean, just and then I mean, it's spontaneous to an extent, but I'm inspired to create a series about just real topics that people like to skate around
For sure.
and want to interact with individuals that's genuine, that's authentic, and that's willing to come from the heart and express their experiences and whatever way we can relate to the topic we're discussing.
Yeah, of course.
Discussing it. I too have my own particular projection from, you know, other topic, and just being here and experiencing life and listening to you and hearing you and just being able to be here, you know, having this human experience. The camera's on and whatnot, but fuck the camera, you know, not the people that's watching, but just the element of like the recording. I don't want that to take away from the sincerity of
100%,
this one too.
right. You want it to be very personal.
Yeah,
you don't want it to feel like it's just for views.
Nah, for sure,
Understandable.
You know, and I feel like you feel me? I really like to hear that and to interpret it and then to embody it. I'm inspired by how your progress you made. I'm inspired by how you hold yourself as an individual through your hard times, through your easy times, however it go. But yeah, you're an individual that the inspiration is real, like real
Good.
shit.
I'm
real
glad
shit.
that I could do that for you.
For sure.
You know, and I hope that, you know, by even if I don't get, you know, I'm not looking for publicity, I'm not looking for clout, I'm not looking for any of that. Like, at the end of the day, you know, one of the main traditions that we follow in recovery is you need to spread the message to the addict that still suffers. And so, I mean, if this hits one person the right way,
Right.
you know what I mean? I've done what I need to do.
Heard you.
Even if, you know, if that's pushing an addict to be like, damn, you know, I need to really look into that Vivitrol shot. Like, I've done what I need to do.
Heard you.
If that's stopping one person from being like, man, you know, I've went out every single week for like 6 weeks, you know, I've been blacked out drunk. I think I should probably stay home and like chill out, you know, maybe play some
Right.
video games. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Heard you.
that's all I want. You know what I mean? Like, I just want the world to be more of a sober environment. Like, and you know, and it may sound cliche, but like, the world is such a brighter place when you're sober.
Heard you.
It really is. You know, I don't think I would have made it through my divorce without my foundation, you know, because my divorce was nasty, you know, and you know, like, in between that and, you know, losing my family, like, since I lost
Wow.
my brother when I was younger, I don't do death well. I don't at all. You know, but since I have such a rock solid recovery and I have that army
Yeah.
of unity,
Yeah.
you know, I've made it through my cousin passing away traumatically, my grandma passing away, my grandfather passing away. Like, that's what the counselors are for. That's what these people are paid to do. They're paid to be there when you feel you have nobody. Like, they are the universal buddy. You know
Right,
what I
yeah.
mean? Like, the hotline is basically the universal buddy system. Like,
Yeah. That's what I feel like. Where I had a personal connection with, because I attempt to embody this isolation element, because I'm like, I'd rather not fuck with anybody, because life.
yeah,
Life.
life on life's terms.
You feel me? And I'd be
That's
like,
a term in
gee.
recovery a lot. Life on life's terms.
Yeah. And I'd be like, shit, but who the fuck do I go to? So I would go to a blunt. That's what I would do. I would just
Yep.
go to a blunt. Like, okay.
The dirty hippie.
The dirty hip. 1832, bro. You do what you do. It did
Period.
smack for sure.
Period. For someone that don't like coffee.
You feel me? Look, I ain't really a coffee drinker, but the dirty hip did, you feel me? Hey, it got me hip a bit, you know what I mean? I rock with it for sure. It was cool, like, it really was kind of like a hot chocolatey vibe, I ain't gonna cap.
Yeah, it's a spiced chai.
Oh, snap.
We look like seaweed in the ocean.
That's right. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, hey, y'all, we did it. We doing it.
I didn't cry.
Right, you feel
Gold
me?
star.
Hey, you know what I mean?
I almost did talking about my recovery family. I'm not gonna lie,
Heard
but
you.
that's because those women are absolutely wonderful and they saved my life.
Shout out to y'all. Shout out to y'all, ladies.
Shout out to the grandmas
You
and the
know,
mamas.
to the moms, to the grandmas, to all the supportive individuals in your community, in our community, to all the units that's pushing forth, praying for all of us that's here. We praying for y'all, you know, hoping, you know, and sending the wellness to you through the ether and the atmosphere.
100%.
Yeah, take it serious, embrace it. I mean, this will be able, you know, this is a real experience.
Can you attach the hotline to this? That way, in case
Uh-huh.
anyone wants to see it.
Yeah, I can. I could pull it up right now too.
And then that hotline is open literally 24/7. It'll be the substance abuse hotline. 24/7, 7 days a week, 365, 366 on a leap year.
Feel me?
It's literally 988.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, 988.
That's the crisis line.
988.
And then,
988.
I mean, it's also used for the suicide hotline as well, but, I mean, a hotline is a hotline. You know
Come
what I
on.
mean? Like, if you call the wrong hotline, they're not going to say, you're not suicidal, this is for substance abuse, bye. Like, they're not going to do that. So, I mean, just swallow your
Yeah.
pride,
Hey, bro.
accept the help,
Embrace it.
Embrace
Embrace it
it,
as a step in it. And,
life
you know,
on life's terms.
You know, shoot your shot. You know what I mean? And
Oh,
you know. But yeah. Gratitude for all y'all that came here. Yeah, and hey, it was 4:32. That's a beautiful time. You know what
That
I
was a
mean?
lot of fun.
Joyous.
Thanks for having me.
Come on, bring it in.
Yes, of course.
Indeed.
I'm sure I'll see you around. I gotta get my dirty hippies every now and then.
I heard you. Nah, for sure. Again, you know where it's at. Well, until next time. You know, I typically I do a quick prayer once.
Go for it.
Hey,
Go
you
ahead.
know,
Yeah, of course.
dear God, we enter your presence of your throne through Jesus, Yeshua. You know, we call through this connection to pray over the lives of all of us as individuals and as a collective unit and your kingdom to protect us, give us divine discernment and deliver us from all evil as we stand strong in the power of this divine energy. We push on and we inspire each other to do better for ourselves, for you, and for our community. And all these things I pray. Praise God. Amen.
Amen. Praise God.
Come on.
Yeah.
All right, y'all.
Later.